Hello everybody and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn and in this video we're going to do some more speaking feedback. Not feating speedback, but speaking feedback, this time with Amit's speaking test. So let's take a look. Alright, good afternoon. My name is Glyn. Would you please tell me your full name?
My full name is Sanjika Amit. Please call me Amit.
Thank you, Amit. Now, in this first part of the test, I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself. Where are you from?
Well, I'm from the capital of Bangladesh, Dhaka, in the northern part of Shahjahanpur. It is a suburb area.
Okay, so fine. He says where he's from. He adds some extra detail. I think maybe the speed of his speech is just a little bit fast here. Sometimes when you speak too quickly like this, it's going to be very difficult to understand everything that you're saying. You have to take pauses at the relevant time. Very often, this can be an indication that speech is memorized. You know, most people know that they will be asked where they are from, and so they memorize some type of like opening statement. If you do this, then be careful. Make sure that you are not speaking too quickly. Let's just listen to the response again. Just notice how it's just a little bit fast, and there aren't really pauses between sentences and between clauses. You some questions about yourself. Where are you from?
Well, I'm from the capital of Bangladesh, Dhaka, in the northern part of Shahjahanpur. It is a suburb area.
So the northern part of something, it is the suburb area. I think there should be a pause there. In the northern part of it is a suburb area. Just a little bit of a pause would be better.
Bangladesh, Dhaka, in the northern part of Shahjahanpur. It is a suburb area where I live with my family.
Okay, where I live with my family, a nice extra touch. Cool. So development is appropriate. Cool. And do you like living in Dhaka?
Not really. It's really crowded and noisy.
So not crowdy, but crowded. And we also have the word overcrowded. So not crowdy, but crowded. Or overcrowded, but crowdy and noisy. Fine.
It can sometimes be deafening.
It can be deafening. The position of sometimes it can be sometimes deafening is a little bit strange, but deafening is a good word. Nice.
And the houses are really congested, so I really prefer.
Houses are congested. I'm not exactly sure what that means when you say the houses are congested. Do you mean like too close together or something? I don't know. Like traffic congestion is a problem. Congestion maybe even in your chest or something. But I don't know if to say houses are congested just seems a little bit strange to my ear.
More spacious area.
Spacious, very nice. Vocab immediately noticeably quite strong. And what are some of the busiest places in Dhaka?
Well, definitely the capital, the central part of Dhaka, it can get really busy, especially in the morning when everybody is rushing, trying to go to school, college, or their workplace. So these places can really be busy, especially in the central part.
Cool. Answer. Intonation feels a little bit flat, doesn't it? I don't know. There's not a lot of intonation there. Candidate seems perhaps like he's not very enthusiastic about the test yet. And what do people usually do for fun in your city?
Well, it's mostly going outside or
I think now we've had 3 questions where the first word that he uses in the answer is the word well, and sometimes we have to be careful not to overuse these words. It's really not a big problem, but I think if it can be avoided, it should be. So we'll see how the test continues. I didn't notice it at the time when we had the test, but I've just noticed it now that it seems to be starting most answers with the word well. Excuse me.
snack from the streets, especially during the evening when there is some free time. People come back from work with their friends and they generally hang out and take a few drinks. That's all.
Cool, take a few drinks. Answers are a little bit short. He is developing. He's developing quite nicely. I just think maybe he could develop a little bit more. And also, I still think the speed of his speech is just a little bit fast and the intonation is just a little bit mechanical. Every question so far has been answered in the same way, like and it's not, you don't get like a lot of like emotive variety or something like this. Let's talk about conversations now. Do you like speaking to your friends?
Well, to be honest, I'm more
Again, we get well,
of a texting person.
but we get, to be honest, I'm more of a texting person. Very natural. I'm more of a texting person. Very nice.
I personally prefer to send text because a conversation, sometimes I actually struggle to communicate because I'm an introvert.
I struggle to communicate because I'm an introvert. All good stuff, all good development.
So the conversation really doesn't take place that much with friends, maybe 2 or 3 times a month most.
2 or 3 times at most. Just a minor problem at most. And what kind of things do you like texting about?
Well, it's mostly our everyday life, especially if something interesting happens in our university or study place or something that we have encountered and that we want to share and have some fun.
Now, this would be a great time to use an example, right? One of the questions the candidate asked me after the test is, how can I extend my answers? And an example here would be great. So if you talk about everyday things at your university, give an example. This answer is underdeveloped. And are there any topics of conversation that you find quite boring?
I think it's mostly about family talk because whenever we get together, we want to talk about our personal life.
So the pronunciation is just a little bit, just didn't quite get some points here. Let's just listen again.
I think it's mostly about family talk because whenever we get together, we want to talk about our.
Whenever we get together, we want to talk about our. But again, it's not the individual phonemes here. It's not the individual sounds. It's two things. Firstly, the candidate is rushing his language. The words or the sounds per second or whatever, it sounds per minute, it's just too high. So relax, breathe, calm down, slow down a little bit, and just be a bit more careful, a bit more deliberate. A lot of people think that they need to speak very quickly to get good marks in fluency. That's just not the case. Speaking too quickly is just as problematic as speaking too slowly. And in this case, the candidate's fast speech and lack of intonation makes it quite difficult to understand, that I have to, listen a second time just to make sure that I actually understood what he said.
Personal life, like what kind of fun we want to have or what are future plans, then beside everything else just feels a little boring.
So candidate's language is actually quite good. Again, the pronunciation more or less is clear. I just think a bit more intonation, slowing down a little bit, being deliberate, and I know it's difficult for introverts. We certainly don't want people to be like clowns or actors and to be like overly expressive. But at the same time, we can't just sit down and answer every question like this because this will have a negative effect on your score. So, one of the most difficult things in IELTS, or the most difficult thing, is actually getting your language to the correct level. And I think the candidate does demonstrate that he has good language, grammar, and vocab. The exam technique stuff, that's the easiest thing to learn. The language is the difficult thing to learn, but the candidate has the language, but unfortunately his performance at times just feels a little bit strange. All right, let's talk about food now. What's your favorite kind of food?
It's really hard to specify something, but I think I'll go with meat because
Cool, love the verb here, specify. How to specify something.
it really has a great taste and
Cool, it has a great taste, good control over simple grammatical constructions.
it also has lots of health benefits, especially when it comes to protein. So
Yeah, again, the chunking just isn't has lots of health benefits, especially when it comes to protein. So that's not how we should chunk it. It has a lot of health benefits, especially when it comes to protein. So the sentence stress is off. Language is good. Pronunciation, the sentence stress, just a little bit off.
and it also has lots of health benefits, especially when it comes to protein. So
But I love when it comes to protein. Great signposting language.
I think I'll say meat.
And what kind of food did you like eating as a child?
As a child, I think I still enjoyed meat a lot, even as a
I don't know if he said enjoy or enjoyed. I'll give the candidate the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, enjoyed.
child, because this is something that my parents cooked very often.
Now, we're talking about when you're a child. This is something that my parents cook very often. Do you mean now or in the past? Because the question is about the past. I mean, maybe you mean in general they cook it very often, maybe. But I think you should show the examiner that you can, use past time constructions too.
2 or 3 times at least a week, which is quite a lot. So ever since then, I've been eating meat, and I still
Cool. Ever since then, I've been eating meat, present perfect continuous. I've been eating meat ever since then. Very, very good stuff.
love it a lot.
And are there any kinds of food that you don't like very much?
I think vegetables, I do understand that it is important to eat the
Cool. I do understand adding the auxiliary do. Very good.
vegetables, but I personally prefer
I personally prefer, so good functional language to show it's an opinion
meat.
or a personal taste.
But vegetable is something that I really never enjoyed. But I definitely eat it, but it's just not my priority.
Cool. Makes sense. It's not my priority. It's fine. And how often do you cook?
I don't think I ever cooked my entire life except for 1 or 2
Cool. I don't think I ever cooked in my entire life. In my entire life, I like very much.
times at most. It's always my mother who does the cooking, sometimes my sisters, but I almost never cook.
Cool. The development is okay. I just think, again, he could just slow down and just develop a little bit more. And would you like to get better at cooking in the future?
I think I have to get better because I'm planning to move to a different country, and I'm pretty sure my mother will not be
Cool. I'm pretty sure. Great.
cooking for me there. So
And my mother will not cook for me there, so in future time, good.
this is something as that I should learn as quickly as possible, a surviving skill, to be honest. So yeah,
Yeah, surviving skill, maybe a survival skill
definitely like to
with AL at the end, survival skill.
learn and improve if possible.
And do you prefer eating at home or eating in a cafe or a restaurant?
I personally prefer at home because I think it's really fun to eat with my family. And the bonding gets really strong. In our culture, we believe that the family who eats together stays together kind of.
Cool. I love this way of developing too by quoting like a famous saying or something. A family that eats together stays together. And it's a really, really nice quote and very appropriate here. So good stuff.
Situation. So sharing the meal with family is definitely my top priority.
Okay, thank you. Now, in this next part of the test, all right, so comments on part one. So a really strong opening. I think maybe some of the answers could have been developed a little bit more. I got through a lot of questions here. I got through more questions with this candidate than I do with most of the other candidates. And that usually is an indicator that the answers are a little bit short. But one reason why they're quite short, I think, looking back on it now, is because the candidate is speaking so quickly. So one thing that is noticeable is that the candidate should slow down a little bit. The way the candidate develops is very nice. I think maybe just a little bit more development could be nice. Pronunciation is the weakest part. Now, the pronunciation is clear. Candidate is intelligible, right? We can understand what he's saying without too much effort. There are some lapses, some cases where, you have to listen again to pick out exactly what he's saying. But part of that is for that's for two reasons. One of them affects fluency and coherence, and that's the flow or the pace of the speech, just too fast. And the second one is about intonation, that the intonation is quite mechanical, it is quite robotic, it is quite monotone, it's like whereas, of course, we want more something like so that's, the nice kind of tonality of English. That's what English should sound like. But this candidate sounds a little bit more like. And again, please don't think that I'm like mocking or making fun. It's just an observation that, we don't have the range of tonality that would get you a higher mark. Grammar is strong. I will say that there have been like a nice variety of, we had a little bit of past, a little bit of present. A little bit of future. Present time is well controlled. Most of the questions in part one are about present time. We also had some present perfect continuous. I think we had some like a few infinitive structures in there too. So a really nice variety of grammar. Something, again, I didn't notice first time when I was going through the test, but there really is a nice variety of grammatical structures there. Vocab, I think, is his strongest point, and that was something I noticed doing the test live. Vocab is his strongest point. He really has a nice natural feel for a lot of, like collocations and nice little structures. And topic-specific language. Cool. Let's have a look at his task for part 2, and I think I want to focus, of course, you always focus on fluency and coherence in part 2. I guess pronunciation isn't really going to change much. I'm interested in the grammar because I remember the grammar was a little bit weak as I remember. But let's see. Describe a performance you enjoyed watching. Enjoyed is about the past. You should say what the performance was, past. When and where you watched the performance, past. Who was performing, past, and explain why you enjoyed the performance, past. So this is an opportunity to use a variety of past time structures. Past simple, past continuous, past perfect continuous. I did, I was doing, I had done, I had been doing. You could use a past conditional. If I had done, I would have done. You could use a past modal like might have, would have, should have, could have. You can use reported speech like they said that I was supposed to, or you can use sequence of tenses. I knew it would be like this. Lots and lots and lots of ways to score well with grammar if your speaking part 2 is about the past. But so let's really focus on that grammatical range and accuracy in this task then. So let's see. 1 minute of preparation time starts now. You'll have between 1 and 2 minutes to give your talk, and I will let you know when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please?
Yes, the performance that I really enjoyed watching, it was in 2019 when I actually started.
Didn't quite get that. I don't know if that's an internet problem or speech problem. Let's just listen again.
Yes, the performance that I really.
The perform. So performance. The word is there, performance. I know you might want to paraphrase, but if you paraphrase, make sure you get the paraphrase right. It's better to repeat something that is accurate than it is to paraphrase unsuccessfully.
Really enjoyed watching. It was in 2019 when
it was in the Hansa 90. So I didn't get that, and I don't know if that's a connection problem or a pronunciation problem.
I actually started my university. It was a welcome festival for.
Again, I think there could be a pause there. When I started my university, it was a. Just notice this, right? After the word university, there should be a full stop, which means there should be a pause, and then the word it. But the candidate just links them.
Started my university. It was a welcome festival.
So this is inappropriate chunking for the pronunciation, the way that we group words together.
Festival for all the students who recently joined the university. Even though it took.
Okay, who recently joined? Okay, I don't know if join is the correct word for university, but joined, we get past time.
Place in the evening, and I had to. Afternoon, I had to leave early due to.
Cool. I had to leave early due to. Due to is a good cohesive device.
The traffic, so that I don't miss the festival.
So that I didn't miss.
But I can still remember that it was really a great experience. The best performance, overall the performance was really amazing because they are performing music and dancing, and
sounds like present. They perform, or they are performing.
The best performance, overall the performance was really amazing because they are performing music.
They are performing. So why present continuous here? It's a bit strange. In part 1, we had really solid grammar with almost no mistakes and a huge variety, but now we get like they are performing.
And dancing, and sometimes a little bit acting as well. But the one that I enjoyed the most was the dancing festival because it was a traditional dance.
So, okay, we're back in the past. The one that I enjoyed the most was the dancing. It was a traditional dance.
So it does represent the culture of Bangladesh a lot. So it was really a great performance on itself. However, the festival and the color and the gathering of all these people really brought the event to life.
Cool, it brought the event to life. Good, we're back in the past.
It's not just the student who joined, the teacher also came in and they supported the students. The journalists and reporter who were also there who actually.
But the pronunciation's just breaking down a little bit. I didn't quite understand that.
It's not just the student who joined, the teacher also came in and they supported the students. The journalists and reporter who were also there.
Generally, this part, I just don't know what is being said.
The journalists and reporter who were also there who
Journalists and reporters, maybe? But I have to listen to that 3 times to understand it. And again, this is more of a problem of enunciation more than pronunciation. Enunciation just talks about how clearly you say your words. And I think, being more focused on that, having more deliberate enunciation, more deliberate delivery of your words can help. I often find that this is the case with candidates from Pakistan, from India, and from Bangladesh. Is that the enunciation? It's like the mouth is almost too closed, that everything does, and it's just mumbling. And I just wish that the candidates could calm down, breathe, slow down, and open their mouths a little bit more, so that we can hear the word journalists and reporters. Journalists and reporters instead of.
the journalists and reporter who were also there who actually
Yeah, journalists and reporters. It just, we mumble and we lose part of that clarity.
published photos that they took.
Publish or published? I heard publish. Sorry.
Photos. The journalists and reporter who were also there who actually published photos that
It's difficult to tell.
they took in the newspaper. So it really was a big festival for me as well, because this was the first time I have joined a live festival.
This was the first time I had joined, not have joined, but okay, that's fine.
Even though I was alone, a little bit worried, but everyone was so friendly and welcoming. They also allowed us to eat free meal in the
Cool, allowed us to eat a free meal. Cool, maybe we're going slightly off topic here.
afternoon, which was also a relief because we don't have to go to the
No, we don't have to, but we didn't have to.
cafeteria and buy our food and then come back again. We could just eat right there and watch the performance as well. But I do think that the performance is something that the teacher should have also taken participate.
Cool, should have taken part in, maybe.
The performance is something that the teacher should have also taken participate.
I don't know what he's saying. Should have taken participant, but should have taken is good grammar. But it's just that should have taken part in. I didn't quite get that collocating down. And again, this is just a problem of clarity of the speech. Difficult for the examiner really to know every word that the candidate is saying.
Because it's not just student who should join such festival. The teacher should also contribute
Okay,
to it.
thank you. All right, so at the time I thought, there were too many mistakes with past not using enough past time, but looking back at it, I think, there was a mix. There were occasional lapses, but importantly, none of the grammar mistakes got in the way, and there is clear evidence that the candidate can control past simple sometimes. And, usually IELTS is marked not on what the candidate can't do, so the focus isn't always, the candidate couldn't do this, but it's really on what they can do. And so when I ask the question, can the student or can the candidate use past time constructions to talk about the past, I have to say the answer here is yes, because he has done this. Whereas if I think about what he can't do, I could think of it in the negative way. I could mark it negatively and think, well, he didn't do it every time. But marking it positively, I can say that the candidate used appropriate past time constructions to talk about the past. Cool. I didn't feel like there was a real flowing part. I don't think it was, I don't know if the candidate really prepared or knows exactly how to prepare for this part two. And again, I'm thinking of it in terms of high level, right? At the beginning, the candidate told me that he was aiming for like a 7 or 7.5. So in my mind, I start examining it from the perspective of someone who's looking for a 7.5. So I think to get that in the fluency and coherence, we need a more cohesive, a more naturally flowing part two. Again, the speed of his speech was just a little bit fast, which again led to some misunderstandings from me. Pronunciation, the not all of the words are pronounced clearly enough for me to hear them, which is a problem. Vocab again strong, grammar reasonably good. I think the grammar in section 1 was better, but the grammar here was okay, and they were even like allow somebody to do something nice, complex structure. So candidate is sustaining the ability to use complex grammatical structures. That's good news for the candidate. Getting on to part 3, again, I don't think there will be any change with the tonality here, but I'm interested to see how the candidate develops his answers in part 3, because we know in part 1 the development was reasonably good. It could have developed more, perhaps should have developed more. But let's see how it goes in part 3, because part 3 I think is, for a lot of people it's more difficult to develop because it's tough to get the right ideas. One of the common questions candidates ask me is like, how can I improve my idea generation? And it's such a I feel bad because I can't tell a candidate how they can generate ideas better about education or about journalism or about the world of celebrities and things like this. You have to get used to discussing these themes, right? IELTS is targeted towards people who should be ready for higher education, and according to the test makers, candidates who take IELTS should have an opinion about things like education. They should have an opinion about, the positive and negative impacts of technology. They should have thoughts about how their city has changed or how their city might change in the future. They should have thoughts about the present, the past, the future, different, wider world topics. So just reading the news, even in your own language, just getting into these conversations with different people. I know it seems a little bit unfair. Like, I've spent some time in China and I noticed that, people in China generally don't have the kind of political discussions that perhaps we have in the UK. In the UK, we love talking about, everything and pretending that we have a smart opinion about everything. In many countries, people prefer not to express an opinion if they are not like experts in the subject. But you have to get used to this. It's just I can't, as an examiner or as a teacher, I can't really tell a candidate how to generate ideas better. There's just, there's no simple fix to it. But anyway, enough of that side tangent. Let's talk about, let's have a look at his part 3. All right, so you've been talking about a performance that you enjoyed watching. Let's talk about live entertainment now. What are some of the most popular forms of live entertainment in your country? So, live entertainment, what do we have? We have music concerts, we have theatre performances, we have street performances, they could be football matches or cricket matches, things like this. Live entertainment could also be, like, as I mentioned, street performance. It could be someone dancing on the street, it could be someone playing the guitar, it could also be something in school, a school play or a school musical or somebody dancing in school, or it could be like a private performance. Maybe you have a brother who sang a song once or something like this. There are lots of possible live entertainment. I mean, a brother singing at home doesn't really qualify as live entertainment, but if you can think of nothing else, it's workable.
Well, we really don't have that many performance live. If I specifically mention about television, then there really isn't nothing to watch.
Yeah, television isn't really, that's not what people think of with live performance. I know live performances can be shown on television, but the question is really, thinking about you going somewhere and watching a live performance, not on television.
Live is just always the news or they publish.
The candidate's kind of going off topic by talking about, oh, we don't have live entertainment on TV, but we have the news. It's like, yeah, but it's not not really getting at the protein of the question.
However, sometimes in during specific festivals, especially in Pohla Boishakh, which is the uh,
Okay, so we're getting to festivals. This is good.
Bangla years, they do perform few acts in live where we have to go to a specific place and watch this
Game pronunciation, I can't say that I understand every word.
act, which usually represent the cultural aspect of Bangladesh and our history.
But I'm not, still not quite sure what happens at those festivals. Are they dance festivals, music festivals? Let's listen again. Maybe we got an answer.
During specific festivals, especially in Pohla Boishakh, which is the uh, beginning of Bangla years, they do perform few acts in live where
A few acts. That's the best we get. Acts. I don't know what that means.
we have to go to a specific place and watch this act, which usually represent the
What do you mean to watch an act? What kind of an act is it? I'm not really informed.
cultural aspect of Bangladesh and our history.
Are things like music concerts or theatre performances popular?
Theater performance is something that we can watch, but however, it is not accessible to
There's but, however. We don't need both but and however.
everyone due to
Not accessible to everyone due to. We've had due to a few times now. Be careful not to overuse it. Due to, because of, owing to, thanks to, lots of alternatives.
due to the limited seats, and it also charges a quite noticeable amount of money, which can be
Okay, candidates' fluency is breaking down towards part 3. That is normal. We see that a lot with candidates that they have a lot more difficulty dealing with part 3. But I like the word charges, but noticeable amount of money, I don't know. Not it's slightly what we would say like a slightly awkward use of the word noticeable there.
difficult for some people. And when it comes to music festivals, there really isn't
When it comes to, miss that S, I think.
much.
I noticed the turn just finishes when it comes to musical. There isn't much, and it's like, well, is that it? It's again, we think of it like a song. Like usually, right? You have something called a fade in, which means it starts slow and then it grows and then it gets louder and then it goes down, and that's kind of what we want in our answer. So we don't want it just to stop short like this. So we want an answer like right. So that, I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but we want to feel that the ending of the answer is coming soon, and then we want it to end naturally instead of just like hitting a brick wall. As for musicals, there isn't much. It's just not a natural way to end the answer. And do you think this will change in the future? Do you think there will be more access to live entertainment in the future?
I think it can get cheaper a little bit because the more people are joining and they also shows interest because of the cultural interest specifically. So they hopefully they find a cheaper and more accessible way for everyone, not just to limit this kind of event to specific group of people.
Again, it's just a slightly underdeveloped answer. So, you could talk about specifically the types of live entertainment that could become more popular. You could say whether that would be a good thing or a bad thing, or who it would benefit. Just a few more ideas to develop. And do you agree that it's more? Mostly sometimes people spend up to about 40 seconds, 50 seconds. Some people even spend a minute. I tried to stop them, but some people spend a minute answering these questions in part 3. This candidate spends about 15 seconds. I'll count the seconds for the next one. Comfortable to watch recorded performances. Okay, so we're at 9:42 on. You can't see it here, but the video time is 9:42. Let's see when he stops.
I think it is definitely comfortable because people can watch recorded performance at their home whenever they want, and there really no need for specific timing or specific place. So they do have the flexibility and comfort to watch recorded event.
So now we're at 10 minutes, so 18 seconds. For me, in part 3, 18 seconds is a little bit short. Some answers will be shorter than others. That's fine. If you have speaking part 3 and you have like 4 questions to answer, you might find that some of them are just 20 to 30 seconds and others are like a minute long, but they shouldn't all be at about 18 seconds. Let's move on now and talk about public speaking. Why do you think so many people are afraid of public speaking? So I'm going to count the seconds on this one too.
I think it's due to their worry of making mistake and embarrassing themselves in a conversation or saying something awkward. For instance, I am personally an introvert, so I also struggle with public conversation, and the biggest fear is to say something silly that people might laugh or might remember my name for being a silly person.
Again, so we got 23 seconds there. So seems consistent that the candidates' answers are around, about 20 seconds, which again is just a little bit short for speaking part 3. And what can a person do if they want to get better at public speaking?
Definitely more engagement. The more we engage in
Yeah, more engagement. You might need to explain what you mean there.
public conversation, the better we can
Maybe more practice.
get. At first few times, people will get nervous and a little bit worried. However, as we keep speaking, we'll
Candidate uses however accurately, but he uses however the same way each time in the middle position. However, there are different ways of using however. However is quite a flexible conjunctive adverb. Is that the term? Conjunctive adverb? It's quite a flexible, cohesive device. Discourse marker. Candidate use it in the same way every time. It's okay, but it's slightly overused. So however and due to are like part of his fingerprint language. But okay, it's effective enough.
we can communicate better, because communication is also something that requires practice and time.
And again, just notice how the answer just stops short and stops dead. And what skills or characteristics do you think a good public speaker should have?
I think honesty is the most important part. Doesn't matter what the topic or discussion is about, or with whom we are having the conversation, or on a stage in front of large public.
Like this, it doesn't matter, with whom we're having the conversation, okay, or it doesn't matter who we're having the conversation with. I think it's a bit more natural, but I really like this. It doesn't matter who or with whom we are having the conversation. It's a nice complex structure. Candidate is able to sustain complex structures over all 3 parts of the test. Great, great, great.
Having an honest opinion and straightforward answer is something I would say is top priority.
Some people would disagree with you and they would say that, honesty isn't as important as like a sense of humor or charisma. What do you think of that position?
Definitely charisma and sense of humor can help.
So candidate doesn't struggle here. It's not like he's in pain when he's challenged about something. He has an opinion that's ready to go.
Person to communicate better in public places, but I think honesty is definitely more important, because the more honest we are, the more we will earn the trust of the people, which
Earn the trust of the people. And I absolutely agree with you there. I think honesty is by far a more important, or it should be a more important thing than charisma.
can definitely change a lot of
Definitely is also a bit of fingerprint language that is just a little bit overused.
discussion or topic in our favor.
Now, very often, of course, people who do public speaking are often trying to sell us things. Do you think people who try to sell us things also should be honest? So I'm just trying to go a little bit off script, a little bit off topic, and just, see if we can find something else for the candidate to develop a bit on. And I have to do this because I'm kind of running out of questions because the candidate is getting through them so quickly, and I have to get to, at least 4 minutes. I have to think of some follow-up questions.
I think it is important, but it can be difficult for them to be dishonest, but I really don't think it should be a problem. And if someone has to lie or twist or
Again, I felt like they could have taken a breath there. So notice this just before if. I just think it's too connected there.
think it should be a problem. And if someone has to lie or
I think it should be a problem. And if someone who had, take a breath, breathe, relax a little bit.
twist or change things, then I don't think they deserve the support that public can give to them.
Okay, a little bit of reformulation there, but interesting. I haven't mentioned much about, hesitation and reformulation. Candidate doesn't really have that problem. There are a couple of cases where the candidate hesitates and pauses and rewords something, but it's really not massively noticeable and doesn't affect the flow of speech. It's just that flow of speech is just a bit too fast. And what kind of jobs specifically do you think need a person to have good public speaking skills?
I really cannot think of anything right now, but I think a politician would be a good example because most countries, especially in my country, Bangladesh, politicians are a little bit corrupt, so they lie through their tooth. So I think
They lie through their teeth, plural, but nice attempt, very nice attempt.
if they become honest or have an honest opinion or give us an honest
A little bit of hesitation to find language, but it's not massively, it doesn't put a strain on the listener.
plan for the future, then it would be great, I think.
Okay, thank you. That is the end of the test. All right, so this one I thought would be very, very easy for me to score. I thought, I always have ideas of scores in my mind, like the impression mark that I give the candidate. I always tell the candidate at the end of the test that my impression mark, my first impression mark is this, but when I rewatch it, I'll, think twice and I'll think more carefully about the scores. And I think this could be a bit tricky to mark, but let's have a look at what I'm going to give for this. So, fluency and coherence, that's the trickiest one. Now, I think I am going to give... I'm between the 6 and 7, and I think I'm going to award the 7. I think I can. I think I can. So, where to start? Shall we start with the positives? Let's start with the positives. So, there are very few pauses, reformulations, and this is really to access language. So when you pause, it doesn't seem like you're trying to find the correct language. It seems like you're just trying to find your idea. Cool. This is good stuff. You also use an impressive range of cohesive devices. But perhaps the usage of due to and however is a little too much. Too frequent, maybe. So just notice that, candidate likes the word however, candidate likes the word due to. So, just think perhaps about some possibilities. With however, it's great because you have, even though, although, despite, in spite of, nevertheless, and but, and so on. Yet, even. So we have a lot of different things for contrast. There's also for reason. We have a bit fewer, we have due to, owing to, thanks to, and then with clauses since, as, because, a few of those, a bit more variety could have been nicer. The biggest problem is the flow of speech, especially in part 2. Let's say the speed of speech, which is too fast. And your flow in part 2 could be better. Let's just say could be better. So, organizing, learning how to prepare for part 2, learning how to divide up the time, learning how to transition from one point to the next. Those type of things could improve your flow in part 2. But I think overall, there is enough to mark it as a 7. Don't think there was a lot of latency. Candidate didn't spend too much time accessing language. Came out quite far, but came out a bit too fast. Lexical resource, at least a 7. Despite some awkward use of language, like take part or take practice or something like this instead of take part in. Despite some awkward use of lexes, the resource was immediately accessible and flexible enough to deal with a variety of topics. You also showed some awareness of style, collocation, and idiomatic language. Cool, good stuff. Possibly, I wouldn't be massively surprised if an examiner gave the candidate an 8 for lexical resource. I just think there were maybe a few too many, strange, awkward, slightly strange uses of lexes. But 7. Grammatical range and accuracy, I'm also going to give a 7 for this. So as I mentioned a few times, you sustained the ability to use a wide variety of sentences and structures in all parts of the test. Cool, good. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, noticeable uses of complex structures. Complex sentences are different, but you don't need to worry about complex sentences. You use them without thinking about it. You don't even need to know what they are. It's fine. There were some occasional lapses with very basic grammar. Third person s when it come to, I think you said, and also they are performing instead of they were performing. You used some present time instead of past time in part 2, but not that many, just some occasional lapses with very basic grammar, but these didn't impede understanding. So sometimes grammar mistakes make the examiner say, what? I don't understand. Your mistakes were like, oh, it's a mistake, but I still know what you mean. So that's an important thing to consider with the kinds of grammatical mistakes. Pronunciation, I'm going to award 6 for this. Now, the reason for this, so let's start with the positive. So in general, it wasn't too difficult to understand you. You speak relatively clear in large parts of the test. However, at times, your language is rushed, and the result of this is that the listener can easily miss key words. There is also a problem with the limited intonation. So if you want your 7, I think that's fair. I think I mentioned enough points in the when I was going through the test. I think I brought up some of those points, so I don't think I need to explain those ideas. So areas of improvement. My first thing I would say is try to slow down just a little. Perhaps try to develop your answers a little more, especially in part 3. Actually, I'm going to take out that perhaps. I definitely think you have to do that. And I think you could get towards an 8 for that fluency and coherence, because I think you are a naturally fluent speaker of English. I know it's horrible for introverts. I know. I'm a born introvert. I grew up as an introvert. I spent my early adulthood as an introvert. Only when I became a teacher did I then learn how to become more of an extrovert. So I used to hate any kind of public performance, any type of speaking in front of people. I just hated it. And when people tried giving me advice about, how to open up, how to speak in a more charismatic way or something like this, I just hated those people who told me to do that. So I understand that it's horrible for introverts, but it seems like, I know it's not true, but it seems like you're bored or not enthusiastic during the test. And this has an impact on your intonation. we see this not just with L2 users of English, not just with learners of English, but with L1 users of English, these native speakers of English. If they are introverts, they tend to speak in fewer tones. They tend to have flatter tones. You know, you've all seen movies. You all know characters like Sheldon. I don't know about his intonation because I haven't watched that show, but you know, you get these nerds or these geeks who say like, I like this because it is very good. And you know, they make fun of that in TV shows and movies and things like this because it's a real phenomenon. Introverts tend to speak with less tonality. It's not fair, I know, but the examiner can only judge the language that's in front of them, and the test demands that we have sustained good use of intonation if we want to get band 7 or above. So yeah, slow down a little, develop your answers a little more, especially in part 3. That's absolutely key. I think, you know, there could be an examiner that might give you a 6 for fluency and coherence because they might feel like your answers just aren't developed enough. You know, do you have that willingness to speak at length? I don't know. 18 seconds, is that really a willingness to speak at length? I was maybe a bit generous giving the 7. I don't know. But I think, on the other hand, it probably is the best fit. I think looking at all of the things in the criteria, I think 7 is the best fit for your fluency and coherence. But just be aware that you may need to develop a little bit more. Yeah. Try. One thing I might advise is try using an audio to text program. You know, find an article, find a news article, read it out loud, and let the audio to text program transfer your speech to text program. You know, so this is one of those programs where you speak and then the kind of computer writes in what it hears. And this could be a good chance for you to see which words are clear and which words are not clear. And again, I don't think it's a problem with your knowledge of the sounds of English. I just think it's a performative problem. It's just something that happens that when you speak, maybe your mouth is a little bit too closed, maybe you are rushing a little bit, but there are words that just disappear and we don't really hear them fully. So overall, a strong performance. And this is one of those cases where I think the candidate, if I was measuring his knowledge, I think language knowledge, the candidate is at C1 level. For sure, 7.5 language-wise. Yeah, 7 is probably fair. But according to this test, because we have 7, 7, 7, 6, I know a lot of people in the comments write to me and say, you are wrong, you are wrong, you are wrong. But overall, the score is 6.75, which rounds down to 6.5. To get band 7, you need to have 7, 7, 7, 7. So overall score 6.75. You're very close to that 7, but this rounds down to 6.5, unfortunately. But the candidate has wonderful knowledge of English, just needs to work a little bit on that clarity of speech and a little bit on intonation, and developing answers and slowing down a little. But okay, I'm not going to repeat myself anymore. So I hope this video was useful for you. If you disagree with any of my comments, of course, feel free to let me know in the comments section. If you'd like your own free IELTS practice speaking test with feedback, then, or if you would like me to check your writing, then you can request this. You can apply for this only on my Telegram channel, and there is a link to that Telegram channel. The reason I have the Telegram channel is only because I wanted a fair way to choose. I don't really use the Telegram channel for anything else. I just got a lot of negative messages from people saying, why didn't you pick me? I wrote to you a week ago and you didn't write back to me. This is unfair. What's going on? Of course, now I have more than 1,000 subscribers. I can't just reply to, 150 messages a week. It would just drive me crazy. So that's why I have the Telegram channel. 3 candidates for speaking, 3 candidates for writing are selected randomly each week. And so to be in with a chance of winning that, you have to be in the Telegram channel. You just leave a note on the correct message and say, yes, I'm interested in this. If you go to the Telegram channel, you will see how to do this. But I will leave it there for now. Have a wonderful evening and see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.